Meeple Nation Podcast, episode 435, August 2022 news.
Welcome, citizens of Meeple Nation. For the next 30 minutes, sit back and enjoy.
Meeple Nation is brought to you by GameToppersLLC.com. If you do not know what a Game Topper is, you are a poopy head. You should fix that right now by going to their website, and then your life will be changed. That is like really all I can tell you, is that your life will be changed forever.
We are the hosts of Meeple Nation. I'm Nathan Howard.
I'm Dave Holliday.
I'm Logan Howard.
I'm Andy Holliday.
And I'm Douglas Stewart.
We are so happy to have you, Doug. We're super excited to have you as a permanent host of Meeple Nation. We've gamed with you for quite a while, and you have enhanced our game night almost as much as a Game Topper. And
It's too much, Nathan. You've gone too far.
But no, we are super excited to have you as part of the podcast. Looking forward to the enhancements that you will bring to the podcast and your game collection, your point of view, your charming good looks.
I do have that. Well, hey, it's awesome to be here. I've been listening to the Meeple Nation podcast for, it's been well over 100 episodes. It's kind of surreal to be sitting around the table with these people that were once just voices in my head and are now people I consider good friends. It's awesome to be here. Thank you so much.
I have a little different experience with the voices in my head, so I hope I never end up like you.
Wow.
But I can say, as the now guest host, with Doug taking my place as a full-time guy, I couldn't be happier.
Like a regular guest host, yes.
Yeah.
Logan's been demoted to guest host. Doug's been elevated from guest host to host.
I could not be happier about my replacements, so kudos.
I don't know how I feel about this. I don't know that Logan can be replaced.
Logan
I'm happy to
cannot
bring what I've got to the table, but I don't know about replacing Logan. That's too much.
But we're excited to have you here too, Logan. It's super nice to actually have all five of us here together.
Right.
That is awesome. Doug also brought some...
Welcome, Doug.
Thanks, guys.
If you want to know more about Doug, jump on over to our webpage, meeplenation.com. You can read our blogs. Doug has been providing blogs for us for quite a while now. We have links to all of our past episodes, a link to our Instagram page and the photos that we put there. Questions, comments, reach out to us at meeplenation@gmail.com. Also on that webpage, you will find a link for our Patreon page. We're so very grateful for those who are supporting us on that, and we appreciate their generosity, and we hope that we can continue to be worthy of that generosity. We appreciate anybody who is willing to support the podcast. We enjoy what we're doing, and hopefully you do too. We want to be able to continue this for as long as we can. You can find all that goodness on meeplenation.com.
This week, we are talking about August news.
Doug, let's start with you. You're brand new.
Was that it? Was that the intro,
Yep,
Dave?
that's it. That's all you get.
Yeah, well, it has been a really fun month for gaming. We're talking about highlights. Obviously, number one highlight is joining the cast. Couldn't be happier about that. It's awesome to be here with you guys. I was also able to finish Etherfields this month, which has been a huge undertaking for me. If you were to come to my house and go down to the game room, you would see a table that is set up next to the regular game table, and it has had Etherfields on it for the last year, maybe year and a half. It has taken me a long time to get through it, but I finally finished it the other day, and it was really, really awesome. Any conversation about Etherfields kind of has to start with the knowledge that it has one of the worst rule books ever written, and it does have some flaws, some kind of serious ones at that. For me, it's a little bit more of a mechanisms flaw. The game is kind of broken up into a dream world, and then you actually have the dreams that you can delve down into. And when you're on that dream map, you experience what are called slumbers. And those slumbers get really repetitive. They're kind of fun at first, but they get really repetitive, and it becomes kind of a slog to get from dream to dream. Awakened Realms actually has an official game mode for it that they have released. It's called the Continuous Dream Mode. It actually allows you to skip a lot of that slumber content and get right into the dreams. For about the first half of the game, I was doing everything, and then for the last half of the game, I enabled that mode, went ahead and finished the game out. That has been really, really fun. Very satisfying end, and I wish we could talk spoilers, because I know that's when you guys want to get to the table eventually, but I've had a really, really good time playing Etherfields. A lot of fun.
And you played that solo?
I played 2 characters, just solo. I think that game has some of the best art I've ever experienced in a game.
That and the way that you get the art to interact with the game itself and how cards lay on the table. Like you say, it's a very creative game.
That's what I was most impressed with was the overlap.
For sure. It was great as far as that goes. And I think what kind of stopped us when we were playing it were the rules. It was brand new, barely gotten it off of Kickstarter, and I think we got a little frustrated with.
You really have to be willing to put in a little work up front to understand the game. But once you do, I think there's a huge payoff. Those dreams are super creative. This is a game that does things I've not seen any other game do. Almost all of the dreams had something fresh that I'd never seen before. Everything was new. Every dream you dive into has something that's intriguing. Also, this month, we've had the opportunity to get Return to Dark Tower to the table a number of times. This one is one that just keeps firing on all cylinders every time I get it to the table. What I'm amazed by is how every time we get this one out, it is so close. The game manages to push us right to the brink of defeat, and then you either are defeated or you pull it off by a thread. And it feels so good. It feels so satisfying. Andy and I were playing the other day, and in that game, we were about to be defeated, and it came down to playing a potion that got us out. And then we were able to turn the corner and pull it out from there. Fantastic app integration.
I love it when a game balances that so that it's not, oh, we won, it was a breeze through. Some of our Gloomhaven games have kind of felt that way, where it's not really a challenge. But then you run into something as simple as Pandemic. It's all kind of a luck of the draw. But when it comes down to the very end, are we going to do this or are we going to not do this? That balance, I love that in a game.
Not only that, I think they did a great job with that game in particular, having a different feel each time you play, depending on the choices you make when you do the game setup. Played it 4 times, and I have had really a completely different experience every time I've played. Like Doug said, it's been really close. I'm at 50-50. We've lost 2 of those games, and we've won 2 of those games. And I love a co-op game that's actually difficult, like you said, Nathan. I played that with 3 of my 4 kids. It took about 2.5 hours to play, and we lost. And my youngest was like, wow, was that worth it? And I'm like, that was totally worth it. And I think they thought so too, because they did have a good time. Even though we lost, all of them had a good time.
I think I mentioned it a couple times when we were playing it last time. It was my second time playing the game. This is normal. This isn't on hard difficulty. This isn't on gritty. Holy smokes, the game is not friendly to you, but to be able to avoid that moment of defeat like you're talking about, I think it was a potion for us as well, able to put some skulls back into the bag.
I really, really like what they did with the Alliances expansion. I think it adds some really fun things to think about. You have to manage those guilds and the negative effects that they have in each kingdom. As you upgrade those guilds, they give you positive effects. It really adds to the strategic depth of what that game is trying to do. Speaking of expansions for games, I was able to get Rise of Ix played for Dune Imperium and Expedition Leaders for Lost Ruins of Arnak. Both games that I like quite a bit. This last month had the time to play them with the expansions for the first time, and I think both of them are absolutely fantastic. Both add a level of depth that those games needed.
So I'm interested with the Lost Ruins of Arnak expansion. You mentioned the temple boards changed the strategies a lot. My biggest beef with that game was basically a race to the top of the temple, and it seemed like if you didn't go heavy on that, you really didn't have much of a chance. It just had that feel. So how did that change the strategies?
The expansion comes with new temple board that's double-sided, so you can play on both sides. Each one of those temples introduces a whole new set of rules for moving up that track. For example, you take your assistants in different orders and can do different things with them. You can cycle them out, so you actually get more uses out of those and can switch them in and out. Also, on one of them, there's actually a place where you can put one of the artifact cards. And if you move up through that space, you get to activate that card for free. It also adds randomness and variability to the temple boards because that card is going to be different every time you play the game. I really, really enjoyed it. You guys have often talked about how you really like asymmetric powers, and having those expedition leaders each play completely different. So there's 6 of them, and they each have a completely different strategy with a totally unique starting set of cards. All of them felt really, really good at the table. I only played as one, but everyone who we played with played differently and afterwards said that they liked how those characters played, were really happy with what they added to the gameplay experience.
That's awesome. This is a game that's big for me. I really enjoy this game anyway. Those things are all also things that I enjoy.
So my big question is, did it make the game fun?
That's what I would have really got down to, but I was trying to be nice.
I'm firmly in Dave's camp on this one. I love Lost Ruins of Arnak, one of my favorite games. I don't know what you guys are talking about. The game is always fun.
This may fix that. I really love asymmetrical powers. Just the fact that it would add a level of replayability, or maybe make it so I don't feel like we're all playing the same game and it's a race that changes up the strategy, may fix that. I would be willing to try it again just to see if it does.
I own the expansion too. I haven't played it yet, but I would love to experience that for sure to see if it does improve the game. Because I don't really hate the game, but I don't love the game by any means. I do want to like the game more. I know a lot of people compare that and Dune. Andy and I played recently Terra Mystica and then Gaia Project. Very similar games. For me, Gaia Project was much more entertaining. Even though I was reading a G.I. Joe RPG book, I was much more involved in Gaia Project than I was Terra Mystica. I need to give Terra Mystica another shot for that sci-fi theme. I'm more of a sci-fi guy instead of that Indiana Jones thing.
It's okay, Nathan. We can all be wrong from time to time.
I'm used to being wrong.
Well, I actually will be really curious to get that one to the table with you guys to see if it does indeed affect how you feel about the game. Another highlight for the month for me, I have a group that has been coming over maybe once, sometimes twice a month, and we've been making our way through Clank Legacy, and that has been one of the best experiences playing a Legacy game that I've ever had. It was so good. The writing was fantastic. The ending was satisfying. Every single time we got that to the table, we couldn't wait. In fact, the last time that we played it, we went ahead and played the last 2 games in one setting. We were that excited to see how it ended and see how it all wrapped up.
For me, that might be my top Legacy game. Haven't played through it all the way, obviously. In fact, I think we've only played 5 or so, but I love it. Part of that's due to the fact that I love Clank in the first place, but I love that Legacy version. But I feel like that's how we feel about Seafall too.
I'm holding my tongue.
Good for
I'm
you,
in a
Andy.
good mood today.
Because we didn't play it?
Because we didn't play it.
A couple of last highlights I'll mention really quick. My wife and I slipped up to Snowbird here in Utah for a long weekend. While we were up there, we got a couple of games to the table. They were new games. I took them up, learned them, we played them together. One of them was The Rocketeer, Fate of the Future. Prospero Hall game. This is a Funko game. Did you guys ever see that old Rocketeer movie?
Yep.
Absolutely.
It was one of my favorites growing up. Watched that one dozens and dozens of times. We really enjoyed that. It did a great job evoking the story from that movie and was a really slick little 2-player game. We also learned how to play The Quest for El Dorado from a few years back, I think 2017, little Reiner Knizia game. A simple little deck builder, but I think was done really well and had a really good time playing that one.
I like that game a lot.
Yeah, I can see why. It's very well done. And then finally, the other night here at the Meeple Nation HQ, we got out Shifting Stones. This is one that we've played a few times on BGA, and I absolutely hated it on BGA. Could not stand it.
Really?
Did not like it at all. Getting it to the table and playing the rules right, which I'm sure had something to do with it, ended up actually really liking that. It's kind of a fun little filler game.
Is the implementation on BGA not the correct rules then?
I actually think it might be broken. I don't know if it was broken and they just recently fixed it or if we just weren't doing it right. It was a much better experience at the table where we were actually playing the rules the right way.
It's a simple game. I've enjoyed it.
I know exactly how you feel, Doug. That's how I feel about all online games.
My highlights are going to be very short-lived this month. My gaming has also been very short this month. We are planning a wedding. We have spent a lot of extra time taking care of that as well as some other projects at home. So I have kind of been out of the loop. My highlights are the short time that I've had on podcast night. We got to Pathfinder recently. That was really fun.
We did have a pretty fun game night, kind of a party game night where we got to play Ligaretto.
Yes.
You
Doug had
liked
us
that one.
over.
I did not like that one, but you seemed to take to it.
It's a good game. Played that game for years. Not my favorite game, but with certain crowds, certain people, I know that's a game that they're going to enjoy. Then pull it out. Let's play it.
My wife really liked it.
So as far as my gaming highlights this month, obviously Doug joining the cast is a huge highlight. As Nathan alluded to, we were able to get Terra Mystica and Gaia Project to the table this month. They were both great experiences. I love both of those games. Terra Mystica is one in the past I've been able to get my wife to play. I have not played either of those for quite some time and I totally blotched the rules playing them to Nathan, which may be part of why he didn't have a great experience, but we definitely need to play it again so that you have a chance to try Terra Mystica out. One of my huge highlights, daughter went on a double date with Doug's daughter this last week. She came down to let me know she was home, gave me a hug and said, "You know what I just realized? I've played board games on every single date I've ever been on."
Nothing wrong with that.
And I couldn't have been more proud.
We're raising them right.
That's right. We have had so much fun playing Pathfinder 2nd Edition. Thoroughly enjoyable. One of my biggest highlights for the month is just the fun time we had. I mean, we got several RPGs going, but that one's been a lot of fun. My final highlight is actually one that happened today. I convinced my mom to join us in a D&D 5e campaign. We got her character concept started. She rolled for her attributes.
So
That's
what is
awesome.
she playing?
She is going to play an elven sorcerer.
My question with this whole thing, and I really kind of want to be a fly on the wall. Aunt Pat was the scary aunt growing up. In fact, I'm still scared of her.
Which is why it surprised me she's not a barbarian.
That's what I was going to say. So is she going to play the elven sorcerer fitting with that scary aunt? And I'd like to see how.
I think the barbarian has long gone.
She's a grandma now.
She's a grandma now.
So not chaotic evil.
I think it'll be fun. My kids really wanted her to play. And once I started explaining all of it, going through all the races and the classes, she actually got really excited. She comes to our house to play games with us every 2 weeks on Mondays. When I was explaining how it all worked, explain races and the classes so she could pick for her character, she got really excited. We usually figure out what we're going to do in 2 weeks. I said, well, what do we want to do in 2 weeks? She's like, well, let's make characters and play. She's pretty excited. I'm excited for that to happen because I think she's going to have a ball with the kids, and the kids are all excited to do their very first RPG because it'll be their first experience as well. Those are my highlights.
So my highlights, biggest one, is that I actually get to be here with you guys again. Like, yay!
We're super excited to have you here, Logan.
Hopefully my work schedule outlook changes soon. But Return to Dark Tower has been one of the best games. I'm glad we're actually able to play it. It's been fantastic. And then my other one is Pathfinder. It's been a blast. I love our role-playing group. The hijinks that you guys get into every week, kind of got to roll with it, but it's just so fantastic. It makes it a joy.
You honestly are doing a great job as a game master. It's fun, and the dynamic that we have in the group is awesome, but you obviously are a large part of what makes that such a successful night.
Logan has done a fantastic job DMing that campaign, and that campaign is just getting better and better every time we sit down to play. I love our Pathfinder game.
One of the highlights is that last week's session, 4 or 5 hours, nothing progressed in the campaign whatsoever. But it was still such a great night to be had. Plenty of Pathfinder D&D being played, but the story ended where we started.
Well, there was lots of progression for our characters.
Exactly. That's all that mattered.
Yeah, it was good.
Number one on my list is I'm finally down to one house.
Yay!
Now that deserves some applause.
It's a happy day. Another highlight, kind of surprising this week, we're talking a lot about role-playing. We're getting ready to kick off a G.I. Joe. I'm completely new to this Essence 20 system. Wrapping my head around that, that's going to be a little bit interesting. I'm super excited about this. I have 20 episode arc already kind of outlined how we're all going to go through that and experience it together. I'm a little nervous. It's not going to be nearly as exciting as Pathfinder for you guys. I don't know if I'll be as good a GM as Logan. I'm super excited. Put in a ton of work and a ton of effort to flush out these stories. We're starting at the beginning. Cobra's out there, but has not known their experience of discovering and identifying Cobra. I'm way excited.
I am excited as well.
I can't wait for you to experience our hijinks.
I hope everybody likes it as much as I have liked putting it together. My wife and I bought season tickets to Hale Center Theater in Salt Lake here. It gives us the opportunity to go to several plays, musicals throughout the year. And we got there really early last Saturday when we went to one. I was able to get my wife signed up with a Board Game Arena account. And while we were sitting in the lobby, we played Shifting Stones. We didn't finish the game at the play. Then she worked on Sunday the next day. I got a notification from BGA that she had taken her turn. So I took my turn. A little bit later, I got another notification. She had taken her turn. So I was way excited. She was taking her turns and playing. We completed the game. She didn't win, but she did pretty good. And so I invited her to a second game. I'm really excited that I got her to do that and to sign up and take her turns on BGA. This last weekend, I ran into Dave and Tammy Bremer in the wild. Talked just briefly as we're passing by. It was good to see them. It's a werewolf you need to kind of stay away from. I always enjoy playing werewolf with Dave. Very creative in his roles in werewolf. Always a joy to see them. Did get to play Wasteland Express Delivery Service. Who played that with us, Andy? It was just me, you, and
Me.
Logan. I really enjoyed this game. The theme was great. I was disappointed that Logan won so fast. I had a plan, and I was ready to enact that plan just as Logan ended the game. We also got a chance to play Night of the Ninja. We're going to run an event at SaltCon. It's kind of a hidden role. I mean, it is a hidden role theme. Play over a series of short games. You're on a team, and you're trying to eliminate the other house. And then if you have an odd number of players, then you have somebody who plays the Ronin. Ronin wins with whichever house wins. Northgard, Kickstarter that fulfilled. Northgard, Uncharted Lands. Andy, Dave, and I got to play that one.
I destroyed you guys.
You played a different game than the rest of us.
It was new to all of us. We went through the rules together as we were learning the game. I think the fact that I was reading the rules probably helped because there are several different ways to win, and I ended the game early by completing enough of the large buildings.
So this was one that I almost backed when it was live on Kickstarter. I really, really love Viking-themed games. How does this one rate to other Viking games?
Reavers of Midgard, far superior.
I like Raiders of the North Sea more than I did Northgard as far as absorbing that Viking theme. But I still enjoyed Northgard.
I liked the fact that it had powers depending on which clan you were a part of. I thought that was great and well done. I mean, it had a deck builder element to it. It was fairly loose. You're gaining one card, maybe two if you unlock some of your clan powers each round. None of us are really great at direct conflict, so we weren't really attacking each other too much to try to take over each other's territories. I did a little bit. It was more just to get enough areas in order to build certain buildings. They can only be built in certain spots, and I was trying to get enough of the locations to build the large buildings to win. That's the only reason why I tried to conquer that one territory of Nathan's, was to get that third spot.
An interesting dynamic about our group, area control and direct conflict is not a sought-after mechanic in our group. So we all become fairly pacifistic, is that a word? Totally is now, about our gameplay. Maybe we're missing an element to these games because of trying to avoid that part of the game.
I don't think we're cutthroat enough for games like that.
So speaking of the powers you were talking about, Andy, my clan that I was, every bit of their power and their ability had to do with attacking people. But like you said, that's not something any of us like to do. I didn't ever benefit from the people that I was. And so that was kind of a downside. Totally want to play it again. Totally unsure how I feel about it. The fact that the game wants you to attack people. You are supposed to attack people.
The hard thing with area control is that feelings can be hurt. I think we're a group that we can get past that because there are some fantastic area control games out there that we just don't play.
At least for me, the reason why I don't care for them quite so much. I mean, yeah, you can have hurt feelings, but a lot of them have player elimination involved, and a lot of them are really long time consuming games. So when you're playing a really long game and players are getting eliminated and you still have 1, 2, 3 hours, I've got Twilight Imperium coming in my brain right now. I just have a hard time with that. Or even people that get pushed back to where there's no chance they're going to win, and yet they still have to sit through a 4-hour game. Not all area control games fall into that. In my brain, there's a lot of area control games that kind of fit into that category.
I think the reason this game has that feel to it is because it's the Viking theme. Because, I mean, that's what it's all about with Vikings, pillage and plunder, and which is one of the reasons that I really want to get it out and do it again and just try to embrace that and see if it feels better.
Yes, to a point. I think they capture really well in Champions of Midgard, Reavers of Midgard, and in Raiders of the Lost Sea. I think they capture it better just because a lot of that pillaging was happening elsewhere.
Right.
Like you said, Dave, I look forward to trying it again, experiencing it with the rest of us here. Final 2 highlights, Marvel Dice Thrones, my first experience with the Dice Throne family of games. I liked it. The description described it as being heart-pounding, and I don't know if it was a heart-pounding experience, but it was fun. And I was actually kind of surprised going through that, how close it was. It played really fast. I liked that too. It does have that player elimination, and so when somebody's eliminated, like you mentioned, Andy, it's a longer game, then that becomes real drag at game night. I liked that player elimination, and it's quick. But the game was fun. I really enjoyed it. Doug picked up the Dice Throne Adventures. We're going to incorporate the Marvel with the Dice Throne Adventures to do a Marvel Dice Throne Adventures, and I'm looking forward to that. That's going to be fun.
I am too. That'll be a lot of fun.
Final highlight, we had a barbecue with our friend Jim Clark, and his wife was there. We had food, and we played some games. Kim's dad comes to all these barbecues, and he always makes root beer, but he never plays any games. We got him to sit down and play a game with us. It's almost as exciting as getting your mom to play D&D, but we got Richard to play 2 games, got him to play Fuji Flush with us, which he enjoyed, and then we talked him into playing Cross Clues, which he didn't enjoy at all. But it was great to get him to play Fuji Flush, to add him into my game tracking that I have played a game with Richard now. That's all of our highlights. We've talked a lot today about highlights. Now that there's 5 of us, we tend to have more highlights. It gives us the opportunity to discuss some games. Sometimes we play in some different groups and we have different experiences and different highlights. Hopefully you find that as enjoyable as we do talking about it. We're going to hit some new games that are coming out. I'm going to go first. I'm going to talk about Feed the Kraken. 5 to 11 player game, 45 to 90 minutes. But it has an overall ranking of 8.1 on BGG. Surprising for a hidden role game. But Feed the Kraken is a hidden role deduction game with 3 asymmetric factions. All players may be sitting in the same boat, but they want to navigate in different directions. The loyal sailors must bring the ship safely to the mainland, whereas the pirates crave to secretly maneuver the ship into the Bermuda Triangle. Meanwhile, a crazy cultist is busy convincing parts of the crew to help him summon the Dark Lord, the Kraken, from the depths of the sea to save them all. I love hidden role games. This is actually a longer one, this 45 to 90 minutes. The whole aspect of trying to convince everybody in the lifeboat you're on their team. Very much looking forward to giving this a try. Excited that it's the 5 to 11 players. When we get into a large group, great game to pull off the shelf and force Andy to play.
Just because of the theme, may be willing to play this game.
It's not quite a pirate theme.
It's not.
There are pirates mentioned in it, so it does have that pirate element. Hoping that might be enough to draw you in.
Or one game, maybe, yeah. I have been a huge fan of the West Kingdom series, so I'm really excited that there is a new series, the South Tigris series. The first one that has come out is Wayfarers of the South Tigris, designed by S.J. McDonald and Shem Phillips, published by Garfield Games. 1 to 4 player game, plays in 60 to 90 minutes. It's set during the height of the Abbasid Caliphate. It's circa 820 AD. Brave explorers, cartographers, and astronomers set off from Baghdad to map the surrounding land, waterways, and heavens above. Players must carefully manage their caravan of workers and equipment while reporting back regularly to journal their findings at the House of Wisdom. Will you succeed in impressing the Caliph, or lose your way and succumb to the wilderness? Aim of Wayfarers of South Tigris is to be the player with the most victory points at the end of the game. Points are primarily going to be gained by mapping the land, water, and the sky, and players also gain points from upgrading their caravans, by gaining inspiration from nobles, and by influencing the 3 guilds of science, trade, and exploration. As you make discoveries, players will want to quickly journal their progress. Game ends once a player's marker has reached the far right column of the journal track. Considering the fact that I love the West Kingdom series, I've enjoyed the North Sea series as well. I'm hoping that this one follows suit. I'm sure they will. Great games under their belt, and I'm sure it'll be awesome.
I'll be really curious to see how this one turns out. I really didn't care for the North Sea series, but the West Kingdom series was fantastic. Got my eye on this one as well.
With you at first with that, Doug, until the expansion came out, especially first installment of the North Sea, felt like something was missing. And as soon as that expansion came out, completed the game for me, and I really enjoyed it after that.
Game coming out that I'm excited for when I backed on Kickstarter, Cult of the Deep. It's a hidden role game, all cultists trying to raise the dark god, trying to root out the heretics and other powers. One of the neat things about this is if you're eliminated from the game, you're not actually eliminated from the game. You become a wraith, and so you have additional functions inside the game. Theme-wise, I think it's fantastic. I'm excited to play. Hopefully it won't last too long. It says like 45 minutes to an hour. Hopefully it sticks closer to that. I really like those games, but I don't like them when they last way too long.
I like the games like that too. Ignite comes to mind. If you do happen to die, you're not out of the game. You're still being involved. There's mechanics in there to still keep people involved in playing the game. And I think more and more games are starting to do that, which is great.
I always love a good deck builder, bag builder. There's a new one called Behexed. It looks interesting. It also touches another theme that I love. That's the arcane magic using. It's got those two things that really get me excited. It is a fighting game, which I'm a little less excited about, but this one does seem pretty cool. It's a magical combat deck building game. Your hand of spells is both your only defense and your only currency. You've got to decide what cards you want to keep to use, what cards you want to sacrifice in order to improve your arsenal. There are 6 unique battle mages that you choose from at the start of the game. Based on the description of the game, there's a lot of different strategies that you can take when you are building that arsenal. You can build it to be an overpowering attack deck or one that's strong for defense, forcing people to discard cards. But that one is one that looks pretty cool. Definitely worth trying out.
I'm going to hit on one last one before we move on to some crowdfunding games. This game is Framework. It's 1 to 4 player game, lasts 30 minutes. Framework consists of 120 tiles, each player starting with 22 tokens. On a turn, the lead player draws and reveals one more tile than the number of players. Each player in turn sequence selects a tile, with the lead player being forced to take the final tile, which I kind of like. Ideal you choose mechanic. When you take a tile, you place it adjacent to one other tile on your display, and you're trying to build a 5x5 grid. You're going to add on to those tiles. So there's 4 colors of frames that you're trying to complete those patterns, trying to chain those connections with the other tiles that you've placed. Games like this, Patchwork, where you're trying to lay out that pattern on those quilts. Cottage Garden, also similar, where you're trying to plant the flowers in the garden. I'm looking forward to this, and that is Framework.
Doug, what are you looking at on the crowdfunding side of things?
I have a few games that I'm kind of excited about coming up in the crowdfunding arena. First of all, coming to BackerKit, Foundations of Rome, Roads of Fortune. This adds a new expansion for Foundations of Rome and offers a second printing of the original game. So if you missed out, now's your opportunity. If that 100-pound box of plastic that they shipped to your door wasn't enough, now you've got more to add to it. Also, and this one may spark some interest over on Andy's side of the table there, Dead Reckoning, Letters of Mark. This is an expansion for Dead Reckoning that actually offers 2 distinct sets of expansion content. One half that's called Flags of the Old World that adds new empire boards, cargo types, and cards to enhance the game that exists. Also, there's a new saga, all new encounters, cards, and mysteries to solve.
So this is the 3rd saga. The first Kickstarter came out with 2 sagas. So this will be the 3rd saga in campaign mode for Dead Reckoning. And yes, I am very interested.
That is one campaign I am way excited to play.
Dead Reckoning is probably my favorite Kickstarter I've ever received.
It's an excellent game. Over on GameFound, they have the preview page up for Tainted Grail, Kings of Ruin. This will offer a brand new campaign set in Avalon, which is kind of that grimdark Arthurian legend setting that Awakened Realms has created. They will also be offering a reprint of Tainted Grail with some upgrades. So they're actually calling this Tainted Grail 2.0. This one is not live, but you can go to the preview page and sign up for notifications. That's one I'm excited about. Over on Kickstarter, Wormwood has launched a campaign for Game Master screens, and these are the most deluxe, most premium Game Master screens I have ever seen. They are really fantastic, beautifully made, super customizable, and have just amazing components. They've got little plates that mount onto the screen that you can use magnets to put stuff up there. They've got all kinds of holders and tablet shelves, initiative trackers. They've even got little dials to control monsters and track stats. It looks absolutely fantastic. So if anyone out there is looking for the premium Dungeon Master screen to really wow your RPG group, that would definitely be one to go and check out. That one will be closing soon.
The pictures of this are way cool. It's a nice wood screen sheet that you can put magnets on. It has a tray that you can lean books on to hold pages on. In the example, they have a tablet that's opened up there. If you need a Game Master screen, this is the one to get. This is totally above the bar.
I definitely backed this one.
I might just as well. Thanks for tuning in for this week's episode. I hope you enjoyed listening to our highlights, some games that we're excited for that are coming out. Ultimately, we will see you next time. Until next time,
we'll see you at the game table.
As always, we want to thank you for listening.
Check out our website. We have all sorts of cool things there. Love those blogs. Get a deeper look into the writing side of Meeple Nation.
Join our Facebook group, Meeple Nation Off Air. I look forward to seeing you there.
Follow us on Twitter, @Meeple Nation. We also have Instagram.
Under the same name. We also want to thank our sponsor, GameToppersLLC.com.
We love their product, and they have so much goodness out there.
And we also want to thank Braden Detergent for our music.
Can we say poopy head on this show?
You call Andy Poops all the time.
Yeah, but not Andy Poopsy head.
Is there a difference?
Is he?
I don't think we can say either on this show.
My kids listen to the show. Come on, guys.